Now they gonna roast me.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Through the Nets. It's bigger than basketball.
Hey.
Today we have in the studio from the Through the Nets podcast of 9. We have four beautiful ladies. We'll start right here to my right. Who are you?
I am Sonia Waters Thomas. Hey.
Sonia's in the building, and she is getting her jersey retired on March the 4th, next Monday.
Hey. Mumford
At Mumford.
in the house.
Yes, so be there if you can.
Yes, thank you.
Awesome.
And then we have
Terry, first name Terry, last name Terry.
Terry is in the building.
Hey, TNT.
Hi, I am Lauren. I have two boys, Chuck and Drew.
And Lakita is here on the mic. I have a son, his name is Robert. And we are missing five. It's five. Ooh,
Yes, go down the line.
we are missing our wonderful Bay, our wonderful Sunshine, our wonderful, Terry,
Heather.
Tiffany,
Yeah, Tiffany.
our wonderful Heather, and Bopper. Everybody's either out of town or sick. Bay
Yeah.
sick. So get well,
Wish you
get well,
well.
Bay. Today we are starting our episode 6. It's actually part 2 of Reclassification. Last week we had 2 special guests, and this week we have 2 more special guests who are actually jewels when it comes to this parenting thing, because they've taken it to the existence of professional players. Their sons have become professional players. So to my left we have Miss Sylvia Crawford, the legendary Crawford mama.
Hey, welcome.
Hey.
Welcome.
And to my right, we have the awesome K. Felder, proud daddy of 2, the Felder boys.
Hey, welcome.
And he's a dope boy, okay? Miss Sylvia, what high school did you go to so we can stop all this Persian stuff?
Yeah, you got to, because I'm from the Trojans.
Ooh, Henry Ford, West Side.
Yeah.
I would say
Evergreen
Cooley.
Land.
Okay, West Side. So we start our conversation off by, can you two, well, either one of you step in whenever you feel like it, just give us a little bit of background on yourself and your life as a mom or dad.
Ladies first, maybe.
Well, thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. Pop Felder. So this is Sylvia Crawford, and I have 3 sons. 3 of who played in DPS, and that's Joe Crawford, Jordan Crawford, and Jalen Crawford. Did you want me to tell you about them, or?
Yeah, tell us a little bit about where they are right now before we kind of go into the subject, if you can.
Okay. Well, Joe Crawford from Renaissance High School, he is currently about to do a pro tour in New York.
Nice.
But he's not played in a few years due to injury. And but something came up for him, and praise God, he had healed well enough to do another pro run. But Jordan, in the last few weeks, he's gone from China to Israel, and he's headed back to China. And Jalen, my youngest, is currently here in Detroit, and he's in the entertainment business.
Yes, he is.
So I'm sure you'll.
Please tell us his name.
Willie Mack.
Yes, it is.
Junior. So, if you haven't heard about him yet, look him up, because he's doing some really good things.
And he's on Instagram for ladies and gentlemen who want to find him.
Yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I was say Coach Felder. Come on, Coach Dan Felder. Exactly.
Yeah, I will be in your nearest gym, but chilling, watching.
Yelling at my son.
Definitely my man Maul. Love seeing Maul play. But myself personally, I'm Kahlil Felder, father of Armani Felder and Kay Felder from Oakland University. Went on to being drafted by the Cleveland Cavaliers, and Armani Felder, who played at Persian as well as Osborne High. So But at the same time, though, he finished at Osborne and went off to Parrish Junior College, where it didn't pan out for him there, but but not to say he has given up, because he hasn't. He has 2 other things on the table. I don't really want to say until it really is etched in stone, you know what I'm saying?
So that's a good thing.
Other than that, you know, myself personally, I played at Persian. I also left Persian and received a 4-year scholarship to Eastern Michigan University, where I played 2 seasons.
Hey.
And I had the opportunity to go to the Sweet 16 with the 1990 and 91 season.
Nice.
What was I born yet?
Sweet 16, so
I don't get off our porch.
that itself, you know what I'm saying, I find it being a big accomplishment in my life to be a part of such a great university as well as a great team here.
Absolutely.
Amen.
And then you got, like I said, K. Felder, who went to Oakland University, did 3 years. At 5'9", to be drafted and only do 3 years of university is real deep, you know what I'm saying, for one, for me personally.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
You know, you got most people that do 4 years and things like that, but he did it in 3. To me, he's the best player ever played at Oakland University. You know,
I can second that. I can second that.
I just seen from Travis Bainer, Monday, big fella Vincent and all that, but at the same time, okay, went there and rep. But
And you can tell him you impartial to it. That's your point.
so, but other than that, he went off to Cleveland and did a year with LeBron. Got a chance to go to the championship with LeBron, you know. But at the same time, they didn't play him as much. Maybe they felt like he needed some more experience, whatever, however. But then next, you know, he go down to the G League and kills them on the G League, average 30.
Yes, he
You
did.
know, so, but, you know, it's a process. It's a process.
Very
you know.
much so a process.
You know, but I'm just happy that he got his name called on that draft day, you know, and that was a big moment in our lives in the Felder family as well as my family in general, you know, hearing his name get called.
Absolutely.
And,
Awesome. So I'm gonna piggyback off of your success with your son when we talk about being drafted, going to the NBA, and I'm gonna go over to Ms. Crawford because you had some similar, what's the word I'm looking for? Congratulations, I guess, you know, because your sons also did this. So I want to know your thoughts about just your sons being able to reach that plateau of the NBA. And I think the reason why I want to go there is mostly because when we talk about reclassification,
You see how
the majority of people reclassify for the hopes of getting into the NBA. So can you just give us a little bit of your successes with your sons in the NBA?
Sure, but first I want to obviously point out that I must be the OG up in here. Because you're calling me Miss Crawford. And I appreciate that, but I say this, I really, really respect Coach Gans.
Thank you.
Coach Keita. Can I call you Coach Keita?
Yeah, you can call me whatever you want to call me. I appreciate it.
And I was about to text, you know, we've been back and forth on the Instagram messaging, and I started to say Keita.
No, it's perfect.
No, I know it's cool. I know you would be all right with that. But I'm gonna tell you something. I'm so proud. I'm so proud because I saw you when my kids were coming up.
Yeah.
And I saw this young sister coming up, and I used to be in all the gyms. And I was like, that sister right there, she about to do this thing.
Love
I
it.
appreciate it.
Love
I got to holler at you.
Oh,
I just
thank
gotta
you.
holler at
Like ding for
Yeah.
myself.
Yeah, you got to think for yourself.
I appreciate it.
But anyway, I just wanted to say that. But yes, you know, God has been good. I have 3 sons, and you know, I didn't play the game, but I like to think I slayed the game.
Okay.
Okay then.
And,
I like it. I like it.
Yeah.
I'm using that next week.
And I say that because, you know, you all here, you know, as parents of athletes, and, you know, can I call you Pop Felder? I'm calling him Pop
Like
Felder.
Coach Kent said, you can call me whatever.
Yeah, well, you know, I just think that, you know, we play a vital role.
Yes.
And I'm not saying that we're supposed to take all the credit, but, you know, having gone through 3, you know, young athletes and recognizing, you know, what it takes, seeing what they go through, seeing them achieve, you know, perhaps the highest degree of success that they dreamt of. And then you take that dream on as yourself. And then seeing that it's beyond that, you know. But I do want to say that Joe Crawford, he was, you know, he was our, you know, our rookie, you know, because he didn't have anybody ahead of him that had gone through, you know, he was a blue chip athlete, and it was prior to the internet. A lot of athletes now are able to brand themselves
Right.
and build upon the exposure that really can sort of add on and improve your opportunity for exposure, but they didn't have that back in the day. So Joe Crawford was a blue chip athlete, went through, you know, a very, very, I don't want to say tumultuous, but that's the best word that comes to mind in terms of a recruiting without having any guidance from anybody that had experience in that arena. So ultimately accepted a scholarship with the University of Kentucky and played 4 years there. You know, he was, and maybe I'll talk a little bit more about, you know, his experience leading up to that at a later date. But nonetheless, he was drafted by the championship Los Angeles Lakers at the time.
Yep.
And so he was drafted by the Lakers. Jordan, my second oldest son, nobody thought that he would really amount to much. You know, but you know, God had another plan, and so did we.
Amen.
So he ultimately, with the reclassification, a support or sort of strategy, if you will, he ultimately left CMA, and we went to Hargrave University, and he was drafted. I'm sorry, he wasn't drafted out of Harvard University. Harvard Academy, but he went to Indiana University. Then he went to Xavier and was drafted after playing 1 year for Xavier. But there's a whole lot of other history in there because he didn't just go and play 1 year and out. You know, he was actually a third year. And then Jalen, my third son, we reclassed him. For lack of a better description of the process, because I don't know that, I guess everything is called reclassification if you sort of take a step back and give them an opportunity that they otherwise wouldn't have if they came straight out after high school. But Jalen went 3 years in college, and he did not get drafted. But that was primarily, you know, his own, I think, choice. And it's a you know, a little bit different of a situation as far as.
Right.
So Jalen is, if I may ask, Jalen is the one that did get reclassed.
2 of my sons were reclassed.
Okay, 2 of them were reclassed.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And
Jordan
Jalen was one.
and Jalen.
Jordan and
Yes.
Jalen, okay.
Mhm.
All right, so now we can probably get to the question about so the definition of reclassification,
Right.
as far as we know, is the practice of holding a child back
Mhm.
for purposes of athletics and so that they can have an advantage. Just as a big synopsis of
Right.
what the majority of people do
And
it
typically
for.
it's
Now,
boys.
and typically it's boys,
Yeah.
right? And so that's what we know it as a culture. However, I want to know, or we want to know, what do you all feel about it? Because you came from an era where your sons were raised without social media and where it wasn't as known, I'm going to say.
Mhm.
And then you played before her son. So what are your feelings about it?
Well, me, the way you just described it, as far as in reclassification, I don't like it personally because what God has in store for you is in store for you. Now, my thing is, if you have to be held back, it's because of educational reasons, not just because of the sport, because the sport can end in one day. You can get hurt.
That's right.
You know what I'm saying? Don't mean you're gonna get drafted. Don't mean you're gonna be better than the next person, because at the end of the day, if you're not putting the work in that gym day in and day out, it's not gonna pan out, you know. But you could do that too just as well, and it's just not gonna happen.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
When those lights come on and how you perform, it tells it all right there. Now, if you hot and everyone's coming to see you play and this, that, then it's gonna happen. But once again, I don't like for a kid to be held back just to think that he's gonna be better than the next competition that's coming along.
Right.
The next competition could be just better than you.
I
That's-
agree.
that's
I agree.
me personally, because my sons didn't get, as you know, Kay, I was in the gym with him. From the time I seen him want to take an interest in playing basketball. I didn't force it on him. No, I didn't force it on him. I let my kids be kids. That was first and foremost. But then when I noticed that they had it, of course I had to take it times 10 because I play. I'm a competitor, you know. what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I love the game of basketball. I love football too, but basketball was my first love.
Mhm.
So now that I see my boys want to take what I learned and what I know about, I had to be their first teacher, but I wasn't their coach. I never wanted to be their coach.
I agree.
You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
and me watching him over the years with his sons, I can honestly say he was never the daddy coach.
Coach dad,
He
right.
let his kids be coached by who was coaching them, and I can say just
That's
as a
respectful.
person observing, that I appreciated that because
And I
that's
never-
something
and
that
I
we
never gave
learned.
the coaches a problem.
Mm-hmm.
Me and my sons will go talk about it amongst ourselves, like, hey, how do you feel like you played today?
Mm-hmm.
The coach can scream all day, all that, but you're the one on that floor playing.
Yep.
That's right.
Coach could put X's, O's in all day, but guess what? You're the one that put that ball in. You're the one got to check that man baseline to baseline. You're the one got to make that correct pass.
Amen.
So do you feel like you did that? And if you did that, then you're gonna be successful.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's just how I feel about it.
So was reclassing your boys ever an option? Was that ever
No,
a conversation
I mean,
at all?
it was a conversation a couple of times, different times.
Oh,
Now,
okay.
Armani was held back for educational reasons. His mother felt like when he was in elementary, this was in elementary.
Okay.
She felt like they was gonna move him on though, but she was like,
No child left behind, huh?
She was like, no, he
We need a minute.
stay back.
Yeah,
Okay.
we need a minute.
You know, because Armani and Kahlil, they like night and day. You know what I'm saying? I can't
Definitely.
admit-
Definitely.
They both like
I'll
night
get into
and
that
day.
one.
They like
Night
night
and
and
day.
day. I swear they are. But they both, you know, they love the game of basketball. They both excelled in it as, you know, time went on. And, you know, I'm thankful that I did not hold them back. For what?
Right.
Okay.
No.
I agree with you.
I totally agree as well.
And what you think? Because you had. Now, let me ask you this, because you said you reclassed too.
Yes.
What was that? How did that come about? Because you did not reclass with Joe,
That's
who
correct.
was like you said, a 5-star athlete,
Mm-hmm.
and you.
Now,
to
Joe
me,
was the first one,
Joe
right?
was the first one. And when I say this, I mean Joe had all the. Joe is the only player that I know that UNC Roy Williams came and sat in Detroit to watch.
Yeah.
So
Ms. Crawford used that word
and guess
blue
what-
chip. They
and-
don't use that
and
word
exactly.
often no more.
And
you know.
that's the last time he's
Yes,
been here.
seriously,
Just to let
yeah.
y'all know, that's the last time Roy Williams has been here to recruit a player.
Yeah.
So being that Joe actually reached a high plateau without reclassing, what made you decide, okay, I'm gonna do something different with my next child?
Hello. Well, first of all, I want to say, I want to talk a little bit about, because I do want to answer the question, but I also want to say, to me, it's all about intent.
Mm-hmm.
I think that,
Yeah.
and I think based on, you know, just listening to Pop Felder over there, you know, he makes a good point by saying, you know, he's looking at what's best for
Your
his
child.
son.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I think that that's what's important. It's not about you. You know, and it can get to be about you.
Yes, it can.
Yes.
It's real easy because when you got Roy Williams
Mm-hmm.
and Tubby Smith,
Right.
and we can go on and on and on and on
Right.
about big name coaches making millions of dollars
Yes.
coming into your house,
Mm-hmm.
looking at you like you important.
True.
Right.
And it's real easy to start thinking it's about you.
Right.
Yes.
So you want to get your son to the NBA. You see what I'm saying? And it's not, you know, initially it was never my dream to get my son to the NBA. I saw NBA talent,
Yes.
and I was not a player.
Right.
Right.
But I watched enough basketball to feel like, wow, they got talent. Now it's easy for us to say too, you know, I feel that way about my son.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? But not every player in the
It's not
NBA.
realistic. Okay.
I'm not even trying to say that because every player in the NBA is not the best player in the
Amen.
NBA.
Absolutely. Time is
You
everything.
say that again. Every
Yeah.
player in the NBA.
Is
Yeah.
not the best player in the
Amen.
NBA.
That's right.
So it's really not about that. So really, it comes down to intent. Now, back in the day, you know, I wasn't knowledgeable about reclassification. It wasn't even a common term.
Right.
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 So if Joe had been reclassed, Joe would have, see the difference too, in my opinion, it's all about timing.
Timing. Yes.
It's everything.
Timing.
It's all about timing, and it's all about,
That's what men say when they say, "Oh my bad."
yeah.
Uh-oh. What are we talking about? We just went bigger than basketball, didn't we?
Right, but it's all about, to me, it's about, from what my experience has been, it's about maturity.
Yes.
You know, the thing that we don't want to talk about, and nobody wants black people to talk about, is sports as a business.
That's
Right.
right.
That's right.
It's a $75+ billion business.
Yes.
So they want black folks to engage in sports for fun,
Mhm.
but they want to make all the money.
Yeah.
Amen.
Excuse me, I'm not prejudiced.
Uh-huh.
And I'm not talking, when I say they,
That's race.
excuse me if you assume that I'm talking about you. I'm talking about whoever believes that they deserve to be paid and black people deserve to have to volunteer.
Right. That's
And,
right.
and,
So-
and to your point, just
Mhm.
because the stuff happened with Zion this week,
Mhm.
they said, "Oh no, he shouldn't shut it down. He needs to play because it's for the love of the game."
That's right.
And all I kept thinking was, that ain't what you would be saying if it's gonna lose you some money.
Yeah, but then they also mentioned on the backside where it was just hush because somebody mentioned it once that the university has an insurance
That's right.
policy, $80 million.
No, only
And
eight.
that once-
Yeah.
$8
I mean,
million.
I'm sorry.
Well, that
Eight, yes.
insurance policies come in place when they know you're gonna be at least in the top
Absolutely.
5
So then
pick.
sure.
But my
So-
argument,
so-
but my
so-
argument is
you know,
$8 million, $100 million. It ain't even
It
close.
doesn't even quite, yes.
So go ahead and finish your
Yeah, I'm
sentence.
sorry.
Yeah, well, that's, we need to discuss that insurance too.
Yes, yeah, for
yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
But, so I say this, that, you know, we should not, be shy about the fact that, our sons wanna get that money.
Right.
Okay? And I do believe very strongly in the pursuit of academics.
That's right.
And so I'm not discounting that. But you go to school for the purpose of creating a quality of life for yourself and your family.
Amen.
So I'm not here to pretend that I didn't do what I needed to do to see my sons as far as they possibly could go
Absolutely.
Yes.
and toward achieving what they could economically through basketball.
Mhm.
So I'm not saying that you jump into reclassification,
Mhm.
because if that's where your mind goes with it, it's because you trying to get that money.
That's
Right.
And it's not
Right.
about you trying to get that money.
Right.
It's about you doing what's best for your child, because the money ain't necessarily best for your child.
That's
That's
right.
right.
I've been there. You've been there with NBA. The NBA ain't best for everybody.
That's right. It really isn't.
You know what I'm saying? So it might look good and it might look glamorous,
Mhm.
but the NBA ruins some people.
That's right.
You know, it ruins some mental way of thinking, and it ruins
Families.
families.
Yes, it is.
So, you know, it's all about what's best for your child. And so reclassification happened to be best for my second son. If I was coming around the first time around, now that I know what I know, and Joe was, you know, faced with a decision, it wouldn't have been to reclass, it would have been to go out
Early.
as a high school player,
Yes.
because he was ranked number 9 in the nation.
Exactly.
So that would have been the decision that I would have had before me, but I didn't have knowledgeable people around me to convince me and let me know that
Was an option.
and that was an option for
Yeah.
him. But Sebastian Telfair had people around him that could
Mm-hmm.
tell him that.
Winifred Walton should have said, forget college,
Yeah.
and just went straight to the
But,
NBA and
but then once again, it comes to the people that you have.
Right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yep, that's a great
That's
point.
everything, yeah.
You know, if you ain't got a strong individual, now Coach Golston was a strong individual, but by the time Winford came along, Coach was at the end of his, you know, he just didn't have the same energy he did when he had Willie and them, when he had us. You know what I'm
Right,
saying?
right.
Coach was on some far as in like maybe retiring from the game or moving on.
Right.
Who knows? He just didn't have the same energy.
Yeah.
And then them kids at that time took him through, you know, a lot. You know
Right,
what
but
I'm
just
saying? Because
like
they
you
was-
said, the
yeah.
not knowledgeable people, good people in your camp, people that can just give you that extra. And I think that's what our show is about.
That's
Right.
right.
Really just helping people understand all of these different things that we all go through being parents of athletes who want something that's bigger than just the athlete that they are.
That's right.
Mhm.
Exactly.
Right, and I think I mentioned on the previous episode where the purpose of it we're late. We always last. When I say we, I'm talking about blacks, African American, however you want to name it. It wasn't originated for us.
Mm-hmm.
It was for our counterparts because typically our athletes, black athletes, are
Bigger,
far more
stronger,
superior. Yes,
faster.
it was not originated for us. So to say yes, I haven't heard of it because it wasn't meant for us to be heard. For it to be heard, we're just on the last leg of it.
Mm-hmm.
And then, like I said, the AAU circuit has become huge in the last 15 years. Where we want to be more competitive. When you cross state lines and you go to these championship games, whether they're in Las Vegas or in Florida, then you're looking at these kids who wants to put their child at a disadvantage. But it appears as if everyone wants to win regardless. So I'm going to hold my son back so he can be bigger and stronger than his actual counterparts
Right.
or the competitors.
Well,
Now, is that but you got some people, we got some of our viewers to say, what is wrong with giving your child an advantage?
mm-hmm.
Yeah, from an athletic standpoint, but my husband, we disagree, but my son was reclassified, but from not necessarily a social aspect, but a maturity level. But you got to think about your child's, like you said, it's what's important to your child. How is this going to benefit your child? Now we talk about the peers. The peers don't know the significance of it. Even some of the adults or the teachers say, oh, we need to see this big old 6'4" kid. Nope, that 6'4" kid is still 14, has the mentality of a 14-year-old. So it's a lot of factors that need to be considered. But in a realistic sense, maturity to me is everything. Because if we change the setting, middle school to high school, some of those silly things the small things can turn into big things. And they're constantly following behind them. So maturity is everything for me. And unfortunately, for some of our boys, maturity takes a little bit longer than the next, which is unfortunate.
That's true. Yes, you know, at the end of the day. One thing about me though, with my kids though, they mature due to the fact that they were surrounded with some OGs, if I shall say.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Guys that played the games, guys that didn't play the game. I spent a lot of time during the summer at a park that I played at, the Quinton Park. So I took my kids through the same things. So I took them through the same things because at that time, me taking them up there and just sitting back, watching them, far as in get out there on the floor with older men
Mm-hmm.
and actually compete. So of course, every man that's on that court outside, don't care who your son is. They're gonna go right through him. Whatever it is.
Right.
Now, I look at my child and be like, well, what is he gonna do?
Yes. Yes.
I'm not gonna just quick jump up and run on the court
Mhm.
and check that grown man. I wanna see what my son's gonna do if he's gonna at least stand up for himself.
Yes.
Now, if he's stand up for himself, then he's telling me that he's, growing and becoming a young man, to hold his own
Mm-hmm.
against whoever it may be, But at the same time, that doesn't work for everybody. I get that.
Yeah.
That's just what worked for me,
And I'll piggyback off that because I am a parent I have a son. He ended up loving basketball, but I was always trying to put him in situations that would make him be more mature. Fortunately, I coached in college. I've always been around the guys. So him being in those environments, like you said, made him more mature than, and he was the youngest cousin. So everybody else was older. Therefore, he had to grow up, or I want to say grow up, because he's silly. Because don't get me wrong, my son is silly. However,
As are you.
he's like his mom. But I've always given him tasks and things to do to help him build on that maturity, because I knew at the end of the day, his father and I were divorced. He spent a lot of time with me, so I wanted to make sure I didn't give him the woman in me. More so, I gave him the athlete in me. And I was always structured, do this, do that. And he picked that up. So when it came to reclassing for me, and I'm gonna tell you, it never was an option, but my son came home, actually, when X, and then it was 2 kids that came to UND with him, and he came home and he said, Ma, so yeah, such a school, and they in the 7th grade, but he was in the 8th. And that was the first time that I had been hit with, okay, now I have to
You gotta talk about it.
we gotta talk about it, because it was never a thought for us. But long story short, I told him that everybody has a different path. And I teach him that. I said, your path is just gonna be on this one, and you're gonna get it how you live. I said, either you're gonna work hard and do what you gotta do, or you gonna, make some other decisions after high school, and that's what I said. And so when I look at this reclassification thing, they do compare it to, well, it's the same thing when you go to college and you get a red shirt year.
Sure.
And so all of these different examples help me to better understand that there's nothing wrong with it either way.
No.
Because at the end of the day, I do believe that what is for you, God is going to give you.
That's right.
And that's just, how I feel about it. I just think that some people make the wrong decisions when they don't have all the knowledge, and unfortunately, it's not even worth it. That's the only reason I think it's a big topic for me, because I want people to know what it's about and know truly what you're doing and your intent of it, like she said, because it's not always to follow everyone else just to be doing it.
Right.
And then you gotta also know the difference in outcomes.
Mhm.
What you're expecting to happen may not happen. It may not happen then. So what you gonna do? Reclass them again? Some people do. Reclass them again.
But it goes
Can't do
back
it
to
after
what
that.
she said, when it becomes about the parent. When it's about
that,
the parent.
That goes off of what you said intent. The intent. The different reasons people reclass,
Yeah.
like they said academics, they said so he can grow socially, so he can grow in stature, so he can become better at the game. You gotta know the intent of it, and also know that the outcome may not be what you expect to be. Okay, I'm gonna give him another year so he can grow, and maybe he
Right.
won't. Okay, I'm gonna give him another year so he can get more
That'd be a
mature, and maybe he won't.
Yes.
Some people just have that. That's just what they are. So like Kay said, whatever God sent for you, that's what's gonna happen. For me,
Right.
that's how I feel about it.
Can I just want to say real quickly, because about my sons, when it came to reclassification, it was never intended to be to get anybody to the NBA.
Mm-hmm.
It was about getting a scholarship now.
Right,
So
right.
ain't get that wrong.
Gotta get that
That's
straight.
right.
Scholarship,
Yeah.
that's what we all
It
want.
was, it was about that.
Free education.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So my middle son, who was the first for us to truly reclassify, he was struggling academically,
Right.
and is a brilliant mind, so you'll find that too. Detroit Public Schools didn't believe in that.
Right.
They don't. CMA
Mhm.
was one of the better
Yeah.
academic
Yeah.
schools at the
Yeah.
time. So they weren't trying to reclass kids for scholarship
Whatever your reasons were,
purposes.
yeah, they just weren't trying to do it.
Yeah.
No child of
So, and I want to shout out Kenneth Mays, because I got to shout out Kenneth Mays because, a lot of people put a lot in coaches, and they say a lot about, this coach, that coach, he can coach, this guy, whatever. But I think too, parents need to understand that you need to look for people with knowledge.
That's right.
You need to and a broken clock is right twice a day.
Right.
Okay.
So people, but I want to just say that Kenneth Mays is a smart dude.
Yes, he is.
And when nobody was talking about reclassification, he came to us and talked about it with us.
Okay.
And it was a necessary thing for my son at that time, I believe. And it turned out to work out very well. He went off to Hargrave Military Academy, and to be quite honest, there's more for us to share, and that's why this program is very, very valuable, because he still wasn't eligible after that year of reclassification.
Right.
So parents, you gotta find the right people, not strategies, and you can't outthink the system and all of that. You gotta find people that have knowledge. Like, Pop Felder's talking about, he had a little experience playing ball.
Sure.
You know what I'm saying? I surrounded myself with, I could name people from Speedy Duran Walker, Mark White, Vince Baldwin, Rodney Hurd, William Eddy.
Running down.
I can holler.
All the friends. All the friends.
But I'm saying
Call the
that.
break.
I'm saying that because that's your lifeline.
Sure.
But at the same time, Detroit got to get with it, because
Mm.
LA, they keep that lifeline throughout
Absolutely.
into the pros.
Yes.
See what I'm saying?
That's right.
And other cities do too, and I don't think that Detroit is doing that. But I
That's
did
why I
want
say when we cross state lines, we do have a tendency to be less
Behind. We're
competitive.
behind.
Yeah, we're
Yeah.
behind. We always last to know when we think we up on something, and when
Right.
in reality, you have to expand your
But we are
horizons.
always first up on hair. Oh, sorry.
Okay.
But what,
Your capital. Your
speaking
capital.
about, what Detroit Well, you have people in place that are trying, like you got Derek Coleman, for
Yes.
instance.
Absolutely.
He could easily be off in California living,
Mhm.
but he
Yeah.
stayed here in the
Yes.
trenches.
Right.
Then you got my man Derek Jefferson, who I was speaking on earlier today from King High School, who is trying to put together East versus West game,
Mhm.
old PSL guys to come back, and all the charity money go towards the PSL.
Oh,
You know what I'm saying?
folks.
So, you know, you got people that's trying, but then you got the roadblocks too, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You got the MH, what's the Michigan?
High school.
Yeah.
They need to restructure all that mess there.
And
you
it's
know what I'm
and
saying?
it's almost, it starts with the MHS.
It
Yeah,
does.
you know what I'm saying?
And that's
It
really
does.
it.
You know,
It
they can
does.
To a certain
restructure their
degree.
thing
Yeah, run it to them
and
first.
get it better to fit the kids, the upcoming kids, you know, be able to go travel out of town.
Because kids
That's
wouldn't
right.
Get that
leave.
experience, you know what I'm saying, and know what it's
Right.
like to be on the road.
That's right.
And hotels, 'cause a lot of these kids not gonna go to college.
Right.
They're not
And
gonna
see-
go to the best
right.
college, you know what I'm saying? And
When these had opportunity to be viewed, you know, because money is a factor, because every kid don't have every parent don't have the financial means to, you know, have their kid on the AAU circuit. Especially if you have more than one kid and then you traveling at the elite level, that's a whole nother ball game. When I was playing, it was like we could be right here and we was up
And
and
they
everybody
came in.
behind. So it's like, yeah, whether it was girls basketball, but the AAU circuit was not the same.
Right.
It was not the same, and we still got seen. So, Mama Crawford, you used the word blue chips. Yes, blue chips were actually used. Now you got Nike. We was invited to the blue chip. What is it? Rensselaer, Indiana. That was the place to be if you got that invite.
Exactly.
So,
And now it's all different because now
Yeah.
AAU really, I won't say it doesn't matter, but college coaches can only go to 4 events. And two of them are at the same time now. So therefore, if your kid isn't invited, now what? But it goes back to, I work with Abby Olajuwon, and Hakeem Olajuwon's daughter, she went to Oklahoma.
yeah.
She said that when she was coming up, her father told her, well, why do you want to go play in about 30 games and play, you know, whatever amount of minutes,
Right.
when you can spend all these days at home getting up 300, 400 shots a day.
Working.
Now you got 3,000 shots, you know, for the summer versus
Muscle
you
memory.
versus you may, you know, play in this game, that game, and you don't really get the repetition. And she said her father did not allow her to play AAU until her junior year. That was it, only thing. Because really, when you think about it, junior year is the only year
When
that
it
counts.
counts.
Because that's the year that you can
Sure.
actually commit, sign,
Yeah.
say, I take a letter of intent. And people don't know that though. So you're spending money from 2nd grade all the way to 11th grade
Yeah.
when it's
we
really
need,
that
we
junior
probably
year.
need to share that information regarding when are the coaches allowed
Exactly.
to see your kid.
I mean, I can
In
ask
the
a parent
seasons.
now.
Because
When
they
have you
don't
ever seen a
know.
coach at your kid's
Because
AAU game? If you
everybody
ask
thinks-
10 parents,
Yeah.
you might get one. They can say they saw like real college coaches in that gym.
Right.
Everybody think as long as they're out of town, out of their city, somebody's gonna see their kid they wouldn't have seen if they were at home.
Not necessary.
Not
Right.
necessarily.
No,
Not
times
necessarily at all.
has changed.
Yeah,
Yes,
very
you know.
much so.
Like I said, you know, you had a lot of more like camps where it was more individual camps, whereas
Right.
especially when I would come through, we'd go at camp. It'd be a guard camp. Maybe it'd be a big man camp. You know what I'm saying? And the coaches was in there, and then by that way you could be seen that way as
Yeah.
well as the AAU. Now when I played AAU, we all went down to
Just go
1300 Bowman, and you got picked. You know what I'm saying?
Right,
And
right.
luckily, I
Exactly.
was, you know, was able to be on the top AAU team with Jalen Rosewell, Sean Leonard, and them.
Team
We,
Michigan.
you know,
Yeah.
so you only had the best playing with the best, so you know the opportunity was good. But then when you go back to your high school, when you get back with your teammates, now of course maybe one kid off that team is being discovered or being seen. But you best believe when that coach do come see that kid,
Guess who else he
the
get to
other
see?
kids better be ready to play.
Yeah,
Because you
and
never
they get
know
discovered.
how you get discovered that
Exactly.
way too. I'm just speaking
No,
for
that's
a
what I
Persian
know.
thing,
you
too.
know
Those
what
are
I'm
facts,
saying?
though.
It's a Persian
You know,
thing.
but,
Because
you
when
know.
I was at Persian, that's the one thing we say, we got one good one, they come in here and they're going to see 2 to
They
3
gonna see
more.
everybody.
And that's just how and don't let us play you.
Right.
And you ranked. We going to steal scholarships that day.
Right.
Okay?
That's the goal, right?
They came to see Terry, but not Keita here.
So I just feel like,
That's
you know,
the
you
goal.
put that work in, the child put that work in. See, sometimes the parent just gotta step up and see your child in that gym on their own.
That's right.
So, Kate,
You know, I mean, I'm just speaking because I didn't have the luxury of someone picking me up and all that. I walked to the gyms. Even after practice, I still went to another gym and worked on my craft.
yes.
You know, I see these kids now these days, they play practice, whatever, and then they just go home.
They're ready to go.
They don't look for the next gym to go in and get some extra rep.
They don't know how though. That's the thing. Those opportunities have gone.
And I understand that, you know, right? And that's
I'm a chick.
well, we come back to the
Gym
reps
shoes
being
around the
closed
day, we
and all
did that,
again.
and it was just something that was a social thing. If you were in the sports and we just didn't play with the girls, it was the girls like getting a team together so you play with the fellas. But that's what I'm saying. Getting on the bus, going to a gym, where are they?
Yeah.
The
Yeah, I
recreation
understand
centers are
that. I
closed.
understand that.
Half the schools are closed.
But then you got
We minimize
now, but then you got the
opportunities for
coaches
exposure.
at these schools also be ready to run up out the gym too, instead of staying around for an extra hour, so your
Okay.
child could get an extra hour of free throws,
Yeah.
or ball handling, shooting.
Yeah.
Just to, but I don't like to run on out the gym. Now, if that coach runs out the gym, then that lets you know he ain't really
Something about
caring.
that coach, that's
I'm
important.
just speaking from what I see these
Yeah.
days,
Mhm.
and you know, I observe. I sit back and watch, and you know, so.
And get phone calls. Yeah. So I'm just saying.
Lauren has a question over
Yeah,
there.
I just wanted to comment. So I think both of you made some great points. You know, I personally am against it. So in my experience, my son's father and I are still, you know, in
Navigating.
disagreement over it. And specifically in our instance is, you know, my son, I felt like he was mature. He was ready to go into high school, and he was also an honor
school?
student. Yes, he was ready to go into high school, and he was an honor student.
So,
And
just FYI, most people are doing it in middle school, so 6th, 7th, 8th grade, because they can't do it
Because
in
you
high
can't do
school.
it in high school.
Right.
Yeah. Go ahead, Lauren, I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
No, that's okay. So, so for me, I struggle with it because I agree. I feel like, you know, when we were coming up, it was like, okay, you want to compete against the older kids because that's what's going to make you work hard. That's what's going to make you play hard
Mhm.
and think smarter. Whereas now, my concern and my fear is that, okay, you hold him back a year. Now, is he going to get complacent? Is he going to be like, okay, well, I'm bigger and stronger, so I don't have to work? Like, you just never know mentally where that
Right.
kid is going to go and if they're going to put in that extra work to really, you know,
Continue
Excel.
on that,
Yeah.
on that path.
so that's what I fear because I'm like, okay, one, are you dumbing him down because now you're making him repeat a year, and this is stuff that
He already
probably
done.
already
He's done
covered.
already.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly,
He's done
and so I'm like, okay, I just, like I said, now I'm confused, and I'm like, okay, I had him on this honors track because I'm also teaching him, like, look, it's great if you get an athletic scholarship, but at the end of the day, you don't need it. You can get an academic scholarship, and so helping him understand, like, look, you got so many different options, like basketball is not necessarily your ticket out, so to
Right.
speak. Like,
Right.
you
It
have
really isn't.
the
It
skill
isn't.
set to do
It is
other
not.
things. And I mean, I work for a staffing company, and so I'm seeing every day the type of talent that our customers are asking for. They want, I mean, it's so many jobs out there that they don't have people to fill the jobs.
Right.
They have
Understandable.
engineering in demand, IT, so there's so many
Right.
things that our kids, when sports are over with,
That's
like
right.
they can go into some of these
Sure.
other
right.
career
Absolutely.
paths,
Right,
but they
right.
need to know that those are other options as
Those
opposed to saying, okay, this is your only option. So I just really am passionate about it because I just want people to understand that, like you said, what is your
Absolutely.
intent at the end of the day,
Yeah.
and
Yes.
why are you doing it?
Yes.
And
Different reasons.
if it doesn't pan out, okay, what is this gonna do to your kid psychologically? Because, you know, they may have expectations like, oh, okay, well, I did this, I'm thinking I'm getting to the NBA, but what if they don't? So just, how do you prepare your kid for that? You
Right.
know, if it, like you said, if it doesn't work out.
Right, right.
Personally, for me, I'm just thankful that God sent it the way it did. Because at the end of the day, I was just thinking about scholarships too, and what kind
Yeah.
of scholarship you was gonna get. You know what I'm saying? I wanted to be from a prestige university, no matter, you know. But at the same time, Kay proved to himself that he can do it. Okay, in high school, so he won Mr. PSL, and I stepped out of the way of his decision of what school he wanted to go to. Now, don't get me wrong, I was pushing for Eastern.
Right,
You know what I'm
right.
saying? But Rob picked up some extra guards. That was his fault. So. But at the same time, you know, I left that up to Kay to make that decision. He made a wise decision by going to Oakland.
I think that's a
You know what I'm
good
saying?
thing though
You know,
when the
he-
parents
you know,
step back.
Not to say he was being recruited by Big Ten schools, no.
Right.
But at the same time, he could have easily went to Northern Illinois or something like that, but he stayed home and played at Oakland, and it panned out for him in that way. Now, every kid not gonna be your K. Felder, not gonna be your Crawford,
Facts.
but you definitely can be yourself with your hard work and your determination.
That's right.
Yep.
And that's absolutely correct.
Carlos Rogers was on his Facebook Live. He talks on. I don't know if you all.
Oh,
That was
Carlos,
hilarious.
listen,
Yes.
Carlos Rogers' Facebook Live is the livest thing popping. I'm telling y'all.
When he called out 276, I was like, what? Wait, what was that number?
But one thing he said was he was like the problem to me is that he said kids were better off
When their parents
when
were
their
not in the
parents
gym.
were not around.
Yeah.
He said when their parents they had no he almost said basically when they ain't had no parents to be around. He said that's when girls play they were the best because they had something to fight for even more because they really probably wanted that parent there. And because they didn't have it, they put all that work in the gym.
That's right.
And I mean, just him saying that, I thought back to all the times when I was in the gym. Shoot, my mama only came to one game. And that game never came to none.
Yeah,
And I'm
same
like,
thing,
all right,
one
y'all ain't
game.
coming, I'm in the gym, I'm working. And so, this generation, they lucky. It's like a catch-22.
Right.
All the exposure, but the work ethic is not the same. It's not the same.
They're minimal.
That's right. That's so true.
It's not.
That's so true. Yeah, I was the same person. My dad, he didn't come to a lot of my games. Not, but my father was in my life though. Not to say he wasn't in my life, but he wasn't in that stand. You know what I'm saying? My grandmother was in the stands for me, but I made it my duty to work on my craft. So grandma, when you do come out and see me play, you'll lead up with proud.
It was worth it. It was worth
You know,
coming out.
lead
That's
up
right.
proud, you know, so at the same time though.
Even and I never answered the question when we were talking about intent and if you had your parents were involved in your. After I thought about it, I was like, dang, my mother probably came to one game.
Right.
And I think I got fouled and she was on the floor. We was like, you better go sit down, lady.
You don't know what's going on.
We was
here.
like, what is going on here? But the thing is, it was normal and I was okay. And I turned out okay.
Right.
And that's when coaches were coaching.
Yes. Yes.
And like you said, and I did. I listened to Los's Facebook Live. Number one, you're a comedian, but shout out to him. Yes, it was hilarious. But he did touch on some points, and I was just thinking like, I never thought about like no parent support. My father picked me up. He'd take me to the AU practices or whatever. But the regular games, nope. We were out there playing, thugging out.
Did you guys?
And I turned out okay.
No, go ahead.
I'm gonna hear your question.
No, I was going to ask you guys. Did your children have to play against kids that were reclassified or supposedly older than whatever? And did y'all have any of those experiences of kids that you knew that were older than your kids or anything like that?
Well, for me personally, yes, especially with Armani.
Okay.
Coming up through the AAU ranks. He was with Showtime. And he would play against my man Joe, I love you to death, but I felt like all his kids, or at least 2-3 of them, was older than what they should be.
From Team Elite. Okay.
Right, you know what I'm saying? You had the tall, light-skinned kid who basically, once he got to high school, he couldn't be eligible. I can't think his name, I'm sorry for not thinking his name right now. But he couldn't be eligible. He wasn't eligible out of all his 4 years of high school. But he was on playing against Monty and them.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And he's older, taller. Yeah, of course you're supposed to win all the championships. You know what I'm saying?
So how did Imani handle it?
Oh, Imani handled it very well because he didn't back down. For one, the team didn't back down. They went out there and competed, but at the same time, yes, they'd take an L, but they competed.
Right.
They didn't say, oh, they too old. We knew, okay, cool.
Right.
It's all right.
So they play to the level of the competition.
Exactly.
Right.
You have to.
And that's a good thing.
You can't avoid it. You can't avoid
I was
it.
just at a game
Because in
the
high
other day,
school,
and
you're
two
going
of
to
the
play
dads
against older kids in high school.
Two dads were arguing in the stands the other day at the game that we were at the other day. Two dads were arguing. One of the dad's kids is reclassed, and one of the dad's kids was a freshman. And so they're like, "Get him, son, or check him," and this and that. And so the dads got to argue like, "But your son is old. How old is he though?" And then the other dad was like, "My baby's only in 9th grade. Your kid should be in the 12th grade by now." So they were like going at it, but they played and they played well. It was actually a really good game. And the team, the younger team, the guy with the younger team, he did win, but it was like a great game. But the dads were arguing that like, "But your kid is grown. But your kid is tall. But your kid should be in the 12th. But my baby just got to school." It's hilarious. But that was in the stands for the other day.
Yeah, they did K like that all the time in middle school.
It was so great.
K in middle school from the 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. Now, this is the funny thing out there in Clinton Township. first half, all the kids had to play.
Yeah.
Yep,
Yeah.
yep. That's
Okay,
no rule.
so the coach had to make a decision when to put K in. Either put him third string or let him start off the game and get a whole bunch of points.
Right.
So when you get back in the second half, they won't be too
Yeah,
far
right,
away. You know what I'm saying?
right.
So I used to find that so hilarious. So at the same time, so you had dads like, oh, he's older. I was like,
Yeah.
no, man, I just put that work in with him.
Now, do y'all think it's okay for parents to make those comments? Because that's another
No.
show for us. We do have a show
Coming
on
up,
this.
right.
But how do you handle when people do say things about how did you guys handle parents saying things about your child? You know, good, bad, and different.
Well, I do want to, and then if I can't jump back a little
Yeah,
bit.
go ahead.
Because, you know, I think there's a few players in here,
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
High school.
okay, and I'm not.
I didn't play the game. I slayed the game.
Hey.
There we go.
I
You-
played
you and me.
and I slayed.
That's right. But I really think that there's a place for parents.
Mm-hmm.
And so we were talking a little bit about how parents, you know, maybe in some cases were not present. And I think though that there is a need and a role for parents. I think that they just need to know what that is. They need to know when it ends. And I was very involved. The first game I probably missed a high school game. I'm sorry, a college game or two. I never missed a high school game or anything below that. But I didn't really miss too many college games. But when I started missing games, it was because somebody was overseas or,
Yeah.
you know, something like that. And I will say this, that, you know, there is some level of value because not only has the game changed,
Absolutely.
because
Times have changed.
you guys have told me some things, like when you talk about reclassification in 6th grade, I know it was talked about back in my day. But when I talk about my kids and I talk about reclassification, we're talking about post-high school,
Right.
Yeah.
both of them.
Mm-hmm.
Now, so I just want to say that. I'm not saying that there might not be a situation out there, you know, because again, I just think it's important for every parent to make the absolute best decision for their child.
Right.
Yes.
In the past, kids got held back. So yes, my sons played against athletes that were older than them,
Right.
but it was probably because they academically failed.
Right.
But
That's right.
not that they were strategically
Held
Held
held back
Yeah.
because their parents wanted them to make it into the NBA.
Right.
So I just wanted to say that. But you know, basketball is a business unlike any other that I've seen, and
Yes, it is.
I've been in the workforce a long time, and I've been in nonprofit, I've been in government, and you know, I've been around, and I've seen nothing like basketball. So you know, I do think that you know, when you have a child that is pursuing sports as a career, as a business, just like, you know, a lawyer who has children who are following in that
Yes.
footsteps,
Yes.
or people in other industries, they get the benefit of learning from that
Absolutely.
adult who is in that industry. And
Right.
so I think parents do have a role because they can see things that they learned in life.
Yes,
Yes.
absolutely.
You know, so I think it's very important that and I like this forum, and it didn't exist when I was, you know, coming up with my children. That's why I relied on some of the names that I mentioned,
Sure.
you know, and still do to this day.
Yep.
But you know, I just think it's important that parents not be totally canceled out, and I think that they not be looked at like these meddlers. And I think that coaches, you know, and I'll tell you, for a while, every coach in the country knew me. And I'm not saying that to brag, but that's
So your involvement.
yeah,
Yes.
it became evident to me, you know, when my son was at Indiana University, and you know, there was a coaching change situation, and Coach Crean came in, and Coach Crean had told my son what his mama was gonna do. You know, I had never met him. You know, but my point being that, you know, I don't, you know, it's important for your kids to be able to say, this is happening.
Yes,
You know,
advocating for
Yeah,
themselves.
this is happening, what should I do?
Right.
You know, and a lot of times when parents are not involved, kids think that sports, when they get, you know,
A certain age, it just,
but when they hit that, bam, hit that wall and find out sports is a business,
yeah,
they need to be able to talk to somebody
right,
who understands that it's a business.
yes.
Yes.
You know, so I just think that that's really important. And you said something about reclassification that I probably or just you I think I answered the question about did they play against athletes that were older and stronger and bigger and this, that, and the other, and they, you know, met that challenge. And I just think that's what an athlete's supposed to do.
Right.
That's right.
I do
Be an
too.
athlete.
Yeah.
'Cause I won't forget the first time I ever saw Joe and Malik as ninth graders. I was like, them kids good. Woo, they only, you know, and then so it's funny because other ninth graders have come behind them, and they're the best. You ain't see Joe and Malik. I don't know what y'all talking about, but Joe and Malik, I was like, wow, you know. So I don't know. I think that it's a huge topic. It will stay a huge topic, and people just have to do what they feel is right for their situation, and always be working to make sure they're looking out for their child,
That's
because
interesting.
even when you do it, I think one of the things you touched on is the most important thing is when you do it, making sure you prepare your child for the negativity and the issues that may arise because they do it, whether it's their peers, the parents, whether it's their own self-confidence and what they believe in themselves. And I think that's probably the most important piece, making sure they understand that you are still the greatest of all time as a kid, you know what I mean?
Right.
And just because we're doing this doesn't mean that you lack
Something.
anything. We're going to do this to prepare for your future, whether it's academically, socially, whatever the reason is. I think that's an important conversation to have with them.
You got a son in high school,
Middle school,
middle
eighth grade.
school, high school,
8th grade.
8th grade.
High school.
I'm gonna tell y'all ladies something. Be careful who all just come sell you the BS.
No doubt.
Make sure you do your homework.
Yeah.
Because sometimes the coaches will try to go past the fathers and holler at the mothers more so, or even beyond them. Somebody that's not even, that it's got something to do with that school or whatever. But the point is, they will bypass the father. Maybe they have their reasons why. But for me, speaking for me, I know a lot, and I know a lot of people that have been through it, you know, some personal friends of mine. But a lot of them would like to talk to Tiffany. More so to try to come to me. Not to say I'm going to be rude or anything like that. It's not that. Or maybe they feel like she can have a better persuasion over Kay, over this, that. Who knows? You never know. But at the same time, y'all just be careful and make sure y'all, if y'all are still dealing with the kid's father, make sure y'all talk
Yes.
out through.
And it should definitely be joint.
Make sure y'all talk through.
And I'm gonna say, I want to say that based off me knowing that you and Kay's and Amani's mother, y'all weren't together, but you guys did an awesome job together, no matter what, you know, whether.
Well, that's
whatever the-
because I refuse to let a man come take care of my kids. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
I mean, I'm saying because she's gonna move
But that's
over there
what I'm
like what
saying,
she
they tryna-
did. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But at the same time, I still made it my duty to
Your
make
part.
sure I had them.
Right.
Have my time with them because I'm their father. I created them.
Exactly.
You know, I created my daughters. I created them. So.
Hey.
And then when you're doing it by yourself, like me, completely on my own, you gotta have people like she had, people I can call on. Because I will call Kay at 3 in the morning, like, what the hell is getting on my nerves? I will call all the way to where Rashad Phillips is, wherever he is at that time. Like, Shad, you need to calm me down. Or I'll call Kay, like, you at work? Can you go in your office and call me back? You have to have people. When you don't have the husband or anything to make the decisions with, I have people, you have to have a couple people you can call on, and I have those people too. So when I get older, my list gonna be like yours. I'm gonna be like, and then I used to call Rashad Phillips. Yeah, you gotta have
So
it.
any other advice you would give parents like us? Because it's funny as you actually started the advice and that was the question, so you predetermined. Hey, that's that point guard in you. You see it before it happened.
Well, yeah, and I would say, I've been married a long time.
Amen to that.
Yeah, I've been married a long time, and guys try to play their game, and let them play. You know, that's how you slay the game.
Yeah.
Let them think what they want to think. And what I mean by that is, my husband I've always been out front.
Yeah, yeah.
And, it doesn't matter what it is, that's who I am.
Right.
And, I'm not saying I'm not smart, but I'm smart enough to go and get another opinion.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm smart enough to say, hey, this is what Coach so-and-so is saying. And whatever. And a lot of times, because he wasn't necessarily trying to be as visible, if you will, I would say, come to my house, meet my husband,
Right.
Tell him what you told me. And it's the same is true for coaches. I invited, Speedy to my house, Mark White to my house, I on and on and on. I always, wanted to make sure, that they were saying some of the same things to
Right.
some of the,
Absolutely.
some of the, people that,
matter.
yeah.
Yeah.
And even in doing that, I'll be honest with you that there's so much going on when it's recruiting time.
Yes, it is.
You still gotta be
On your
in
On your-
control.
yeah.
You
Sure.
got, no, it doesn't, it's okay when you weighing situations with other people and asking questions, and sometimes you just putting folks out there so
Absolutely.
that people know that they,
You're not by yourself on it.
that you got some expertise around you.
Right.
But, it's always important for you to know that you raised that child, and you know that child better than anybody.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And it's, I don't care about reclassification. I don't care about nothing. It's nothing more important than who you put in your child's life.
That's
right.
And that's not even about college. That's high school. That's AAU.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
You know,
All around the board.
Yeah, because that's the most important thing. And the reason that I think this forum is so important is because information is power.
Yes.
Absolutely.
And a lot of parents, moms, even men, sometimes think that somebody else know more or can do better for your child
Sure.
than you, got connections that you don't have. They think all of that, and I don't believe it. Because
Yes.
anybody that they know you can meet. You can shake their hand, look in their eye, introduce yourself, and get
There it is.
a gut feeling about that person.
And now I know them too.
And that's too important. It's
Yes.
too important.
I agree.
I want to bring back the point about the parents not being in the gym. That was a long time ago.
Right.
That was a long time ago.
Right.
You get away with
And
it.
that was,
Yes.
and
I don't-
that statement was more because he was talking about the performance and the practice of a child
Oh, no doubt.
versus the parent not being there.
Yeah, this
You
is
know
what I'm
what I mean?
saying, that, yeah, because like I said, my mother wasn't there.
Mhm.
Times were different. I caught 3 buses. I lived in the Redford, caught 3 buses. I'm not taking anything away from my mother or my father. I'm saying, like, now I'm in the gym with my son.
Which is better.
I'm in the gym with my daughter because, yes, there are some coaches, there are some parents that have literally lost their minds because they do not respect the mere fact that we are here. I'm cheering for every kid in that gym.
Yep.
I'm not saying every kid in the gym is going to go to the NBA or every kid going to play on an Olympic team because my daughter plays volleyball. I'm rooting for everybody. However, if a grown person approach my son, I don't give up. You know what? My 6'4" or not, he's 14. I shouldn't have to keep explaining to somebody, he's 14. You're not going to say anything sideways to my kid. Yes, and my son has 2 parents. I'm married 18 years. They're there. But I'm saying the times have changed. Parents, some of us, we have to be in the gym because times have changed.
Yes.
And that's true. I mean, I was that parent in the gym.
Absolutely.
I worked.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a couple of jobs I could have had and was not going to be able to be there. But I found jobs where I could be in the gym, just observing.
Intent.
Yes.
Just
Everything.
making
Yes.
sure we get them reps in and things like that. So I sacrificed.
Yeah.
And
that's what we all
I mean,
do.
I sacrificed.
We're
To do it.
sacrificing.
You know what I'm saying? To see
Tell me
them be
about it.
successful because I ain't gonna be here forever.
Right.
And I want to know if y'all can stand up on your own.
I know that's
And
right.
the only way you're gonna
Yeah.
stand up on your own is actually making some good money. You know what I'm saying? For real.
Yeah.
At least know how to make it.
Right, exactly. You know?
So we got
Exactly.
a person here, his name's Isaiah. He says, if your child, he or she is getting terrible grades and can't keep up with the books, they're great at their sports, do you allow them to still play to get the exposure because of the financial success in the future? Or do you take the sports away and we're just focusing on books?
gotta be a balance.
I'll start and say,
I'll say books.
I'm gonna say Isaiah. I've always been, you don't get the grades, you don't play.
ball.
Yeah.
And I feel like when you teach them that early enough, so it don't matter for recruiting.
Right.
I believe that they take on habits to say, well, if I can't, if I can't play, I'm gonna do right and I'm gonna try my best. Now, all kids are not A and B students. I understand that.
Right.
But you want the best effort from your kid, and you don't want them to think that you can just fail and still be rewarded. Because
Right.
life is not like that. So
Right.
for me,
Right.
we have a requirement in the house now. And when your kid's trying, because he has come home with less than a 3.0. However, he was trying, and it wasn't due to him saying, I don't care and I'm not going to do this.
Right.
And for my house, if we not making the grades that I think you should be making, which is A's and B's, because I know you can, then we're not playing ball at all. I don't care what your coach say. I don't care if I call Keita and she say just let him. I don't care if Kay say
Keita not gonna say
working, let him working. I don't care. Just my people that I call. Even if they say like maybe it's this. If you're not making the grades that I know you can make, you're not playing. Period. And I don't care. I don't care if it's a big game. I just don't care. Doesn't
All
work for
right.
me.
Do we have any last minute anything? We want to give a shout out to our sponsors.
Give a shout out to our sponsors.
First, but before that, thank you,
Yes.
Miss Crawford
Oh my God.
and Kay Felder. When I say we thank you from the bottom of our heart,
Wait a minute, how come he can't Felder and I'm Miss Crawford? That's all right, that's all right.
probably because I've been in the gym with him.
around him every day.
I've been talking stuff to him.
Okay, I'm gonna have to take you to the hole.
Exactly. Right. Uh-oh.
I ain't helping you.
But we really appreciate you two coming out because when I say that
Thank you.
you are a real jewel to the audience to understand that this is a process and it's going to take a lot of working, not just our class and just my kid gonna make it. So shout out to our sponsors.
Shout
Go
out to
ahead.
our sponsors. We got Horatio Williams, who does everything we need him to do. We got Enjoy Detroit, who provides our apparel. We have House of Lemonade, who's upset with us right now, but still does a little this and that for us. And we got a couple other sponsors coming, but once we get them on paper, we'll give them shouts out.
So thank you, and that was truly that's
Thank you for
episode
coming.
6.
Thank you.
Clap it up.
Hey.
It's a wrap.